Hey, everybody, welcome to The Wrong End of the Snake, a webcast about audio, touring, and the relationships we have built between our road families. Tater and I have had an 18-year relationship on The Wrong End of the Snake with bands like Ted Nugent, Kid Rock, Slash, Stone Temple Pilots, Prophets of Rage, Iron Maiden, and most notably 10 years for Linkin Park. My co-host, Kevin Tater McCarthy, is a world-class monitor engineer with over 30 years in the business. I'm very proud to call him my friend. He has 9 Top Dog Monitor Engineer of the Year awards and 2 Parnelli Monitor Engineer of the Year awards. I'm Ken Van Druten, aka Pooch. I am a front house engineer with 3 decades in the music industry. I'm a 3-time Grammy-nominated recording engineer. I have 8 Top Dog Front House Engineer of the Year awards, and I am also a winner of the Parnelli Front House Engineer of the Year award. Let's do a little housekeeping. Please use the chat window of the Zoom app to communicate amongst yourselves. If you're streaming from our YouTube channel and you want to be able to ask questions of our guests, register to be on the Zoom call for future episodes. Links to register are in all of our social media. If you have any questions for our guests, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom app. We will answer as many questions as possible during the hour, and then answer any leftover questions in our Q&A overtime episode. Look for that to be uploaded to our YouTube channel in a few days. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit our social media. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is at Wrong End of the Snake. Tater, why don't you tell us about our guest this week?
All right, today we have Toby Francis. Toby's a 40-year plus touring veteran, sound engineer, production manager, and a member of the Clair Global sales team. He's worked with many of today's A-list artists, including Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, Travis Scott, Kanye West, tons more pop stars, but big rock background. We all know he did Aerosmith for years. We did Slash together. So let's welcome to Wrong End of the Snake today, Toby Francis. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, Toby. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've been trying to get you on here for a while.
Yeah.
When we, the three of us have a long-standing relationship. I've known you for going on 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
The description that Tater just said doesn't even begin to
Scratch the surface.
Yeah, scratch the surface. You sent that to us, and I was like, what about the other 40 huge bands that you've mixed in your career?
Mention Easy Top in there. What's history?
Well, I should probably do it genre by genre at this point. But that's most recently I've been doing pop music.
Right. Yeah. How do you like that switch? You were a rock guy, similar to me. Well, let's be honest. I made a career out of your sloppy seconds. So every time that you wanted to leave an artist, you graciously put me in there, and I always feel like you're the coach. Get in there, kid, and see how it does.
Me and coach.
Well, see, from my perspective, is you were helping me out of some predicaments that I was, because rock bands are fun to mix if you like the music.
Yep.
Like I mixed Ted Nugent a few tours, and I love a couple of his songs. You had to put up with a lot to get to those 2 songs.
two hits.
And after a while, it got and then the tour where we had all these guns on stage until we were going to play in New York City, and I'm like, you can't take this stuff in New York City. These are real guns. You've got to, put them in, leave them in the truck, and sure enough, the police were there that night. And knowing Ted, he would have talked his way out of it.
But, of course.
But it was still, after a while, hard to be around. Or where we first kind of worked together was Kiss. I had mixed several Kiss tours. And the original band was challenging to mix for obvious reasons. They're older guys, and Peter had some stamina issues, being his age and with some of the health issues that he had already dealt with and is continuing to deal with. Tried harder than anybody I've ever seen.
Yep.
You know, but the end result was challenging, and they didn't play as a band. There were 4 rock stars on stage doing the thing at the same time. If your job is to make sense of that, after a while, you start taking it personally, and you internalize it, and because no matter who you're mixing, you want it to sound as good as it can possibly sound. I've always tried to make the guy signing my check happy first and foremost, and then act as an advocate for the audience. Because I grew up going to concerts in the early to mid 70s, and shows for the most part didn't sound very good.
No.
Back then, there were a few people that did it really well. Trip Califf mixing Queen was part of the reason I wanted to be a sound engineer, or want to be a sound engineer.
Still want to.
Yeah.
But that was like a watershed moment, right? Like you had gone to 100 shows of all these other bands. They all sounded shitty. And then you show up and you see Queen and you were like, because I remember you saying to me, it was like a level beyond.
Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, the band was so good, and he was so good, and they had S4s were new, and that you could actually tell what the band would. It sounded like the record really loud. Where a lot of shows, you were like, oh, "What song is this?" You know, I can't tell, and it was a whole different dynamic back then. A big tour was 4 trucks.
Yeah.
You know, most tours were a truck or 2.
Right.
PAs were ground stacked for the most part when I first started going to shows.
And where was this at? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. So we had shows. Well, before Rupp was built. I mean, I remember I'm vintage. I'm older than most of the buildings.
You're an analog roadie.
Yeah.
It's not hard anymore, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And we had shows in Louisville or Cincinnati to pull from, as well as in Lexington. But Lexington only really had where the basketball team played. Before Rupp Arena, it was, I can't remember what it was called. But it's over on the campus. It was a smaller building, and it was not a good place to see shows. Like I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire in there, where they had all the magic stuff going on. Remember the big triangle on the...
Oh, yeah, that was like a huge deal. Yeah.
Well, it was a great show and absolute phenomenal. You could tell it's a phenomenal band, but not by how it sounded in there. Saw Jackson Browne there, and it sounded really bad. And then I saw Frank Zappa with Davey Moore mixing in Frankfort, Kentucky, at a small arena there, and it sounded unbelievable. And then I saw Queen right after that. So then I knew it was possible, you know, because at first it was maybe it's like golf. It's impossible to do,
Yeah.
you know, no matter how hard you try. But, and then I saw Kiss a few times, and then Yes. And I can't remember who was mixing Yes at that time, but again, it's absolutely phenomenal. And then I saw Zappa with Michael Abbott mixing, who I actually talk to now, and I always have Zappa question for him when he has the time to answer it. He was
Michael's awesome. I love him. He's great.
Yeah, and hearing Michael's what he was doing with that absolutely phenomenal band, you know, that Zappa had at that time period, it showed me that not only is this possible to do, but this is something that I would like to try to do, and you know, hopefully have success at it. And that was when I was around 15, 16, and I started working for a local band that had a really nice setup, a three-way stereo PA and a modified Tascam studio console that we used for live. So I got exposed to audio in the perfect way for that time period, because most people had a column on each side of the stage. You plugged 6 microphones into it, and if you put a mic anywhere near the drums, you're not allowed to play with the PA anymore. You know, why would you want to do that? And their engineer was a guy named Rick Watts, and his nickname was 100 Watts, which was like the most awesome.
Yeah, perfect name.
That's perfect nickname, yeah.
And he was a really smart guy and taught me the basics. And out of boredom, I mean, I got a job. The drummer of that band's girlfriend was my best friend's sister, you know. So she hooked us up with a job carrying equipment around for them. We got $15 a show, and that was a lot of money. Prior to that, I had flipped hamburgers at McDonald's, and I had worked all week because minimum wage was like $1.
Yeah, right.
And a quarter or something. So $15 was well worth it. And they played in nightclubs, and nightclubs had drunk girls in there.
Yes,
so
they did.
Truth be told, I would have flipped hamburgers all week to give them $15 to get into nightclubs at 16 years old. And
Right.
And the drinking age was 18, so it's a different thing. But Rick showed me the basics, and then he got sick, and I covered for him one weekend. And once that went well, then Rick started taking nights off here and there because he'd been doing it for a while. And that got me into it. And one of the horn players in that band, it was a 10-piece band. They did Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago, anything from that to ZZ Top. And they were all really good musicians, really good guys. And one of the horn players got a job with the Crystals, which it was like 10 years after their career was huge. And they had been robbed blind by Phil Spector. Before Phil was killing people, he was robbing them. And I heard stories from, there was only one original member left, and she was, you know, her dream got robbed. It wasn't just the money, it was her dream got robbed from her, you know, and it really was impactful. I think I've always kind of advocated more for the artist than I normally would have if I hadn't had that perspective shared with me at such a young age. And I went on the road with them when I was 17. I turned 18 on that tour, and I did 2 years of that, moved to Boston, worked with some local bands up there that each one helped me skill-wise. There was a guy named Rick Submergin up there that was an excellent sound engineer, way ahead of his time. And he introduced me to the Yuri LA3A.
Yeah, man.
And I heard what a real piece of audio equipment
Yes.
does something really well. And we put it across the whole PA.
As you do.
And it was awesome. And our PA sounded so much better.
That's right.
And I went out and I bought one of those. And these were like $350. I think I paid for it. But that was 2 weeks' pay.
Yeah, right.
So it was a lot of money. So and I bought some more quality gear. He kind of taught me the value of doing it the right way and face correctness. You know, I never had a face switch until that time. We had things you plug in that would, but I only had 2 of them.
Right.
So you had to,
right.
you had to choose carefully. but you weren't multi-miking anything. You didn't have enough channels. This was 12 channels was where it kind of started. And I remember Zappa had two 32-channel Yamaha consoles. They were PM 2000s.
Wow. Nice.
And I'm like, 64 channels.
Whoa.
You look at the stage and, wow, yeah, there are a bunch of mics up there. And then it sounded phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I started seeing that some of the studio techniques were translating into live if you had the budget to do it.
Yeah.
And then it was a few years in Boston through a weird turn of events. I ended up with Joe Perry's solo band, which led to Aerosmith. But when I was with Joe Perry's solo band, playing clubs with a rock band that has 12 4x12s on stage
Yes.
is not a fun
No, it's
job.
not.
Driving the truck is a more fun job
Yeah.
than doing that. So during that period, I became Joe Perry's guitar tech.
Right.
And for about 5 years, when we were off the road in the studio, I was one of 2 or 3 guys that kept on salary. And I started doing demo tapes for their records for a record called Done with Mirrors, Permanent Vacation, and Pump.
What was the real name of that? Done with, what's the name of that record?
Done with Mirrors, and it absolutely was Done with Mirrors.
Okay. I thought they nicknamed it something else. I thought it was nicknamed Done on Mirrors, but
Some of them absolutely were. And actually, that record I got to work with Ted Templeman.
wow.
That was a big first time I'd worked with somebody on that level, and he was at an odd place in his career at that time. The band was not sober, but pretending to be.
Right.
So we were playing those games that bands play when they want to convince somebody they're sober. The record's horrible. It's the audience did not receive it very well. And then they got clean after that, or a better version of that. And Permanent Vacation was better.
Let me jump back. Who was mixing front of house for the Done on Mirrors, Done with Mirrors, whatever it was?
Done with Mirrors tour was mixed by Nightbob.
It was Nightbob. Okay.
Yeah. I did the pre-production on the record. We went in, did the record with Ted. And then we did what was supposed to be a year-long tour. And Nightbob had been their mixer for some time at that point. And about 5 or 6 months into the tour, Steven was getting particularly unreliable in his performance, and there was concerns for his health. How's that for tactful?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But we thought little buddy was going to die on us.
Yeah.
So the band wanted to stop to try to save his life. And these old stories we're all telling now from 30, 40 years ago. We all remember them a little differently.
Of course.
And some of this, I'm sure, is my memory of that, but I was pretty close to the center of the storm on that. But I know I've read Steven's book, and he remembers things quite a bit differently.
A little bit differently.
And when we ended early, Nightbob was very vocal to Steven about his disappointment in him not being able to man up, so to speak.
Got it.
Which I, at the time, thought was a noble thing for him to say, because we were ending the tour early. We were all going to be unemployed, we thought. And I'd worked for the band year round, and I thought I was going to be unemployed because, there's no reason to pay me if this band cannot function. But Steven bounced back pretty quickly. He did a rehab stint, and Ted Nugent was opening that tour, and Jeff Newsom had been mixing Ted, and Jeff got really sick and actually died.
Oh no!
Not long after that, of a liver problem, and Nightbob took over mixing Ted, and then Geffen told Aerosmith until they had their house in order, they were not giving him any more money to move forward recording. So we did 2 stadium shows to try to raise cash. And there was a bidding war. This is before Live Nation, when you could actually like go to 2 different promoters and have them, between them come up with what the most money you could make.
Yes.
Was.
Can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore. And Frank J. Russo won it was Don Law and Frank Russo, and Russo won. And the deal was Russo had to provide all the production, all that stuff. And I think Aerosmith got $1 million for each show. But at the time, that was considered a lot of money.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That was what the Stones were making on their big stadium shows.
Right.
And then they were paying for all the production out of that. So, and it would give the band a couple $1 million to keep moving forward. And they didn't have another option really. So they decided to do those shows, and then the band could not decide on who was going to mix because Nightbob wasn't available.
Right.
And they even tried to get Nugent on the dates to get, that was one of the discussions. I mean, they absolutely wanted him. The band wanted him back. Steven had a bit of a grudge because of the way Nightbob had talked to him.
Right.
When we canceled. Through that process, Brad Whitford suggested that I mix those 2 shows.
Wow.
And because the pre-production tapes I was given him always sounded great, was his thing. And then they went around the room with each guy. Tom Hamilton said, well, my tape always sounds great too. And now this is a band that functioned as a band when they were in the room together.
Right.
The minute they left the room, they didn't talk to each other.
Right.
Their lives did not intersect in any fucking way at all, unless if they at the grocery store. Well, no, it's not even that. They didn't go to the grocery store. But yeah, it was that type of thing. So they had never heard each other's tapes. And I'd worked there for a long time and I knew that. So when I made those tapes, if Tom heard Joe Perry's tape, he would not have said this is, and vice versa.
That's amazing.
And that's what's going through my mind as I'm seeing this go around
the room
circle. And we were in a conference room trying to solve these big issues. Who's going to be the production manager? And it ended up being Joe Bautista, who was a legend of legends. And I mean, when people talk about legends in this business, Joe was a legend.
I don't think there's a whole 2 generations of kids that don't know about those guys. You know what I mean?
Well, they invented what we
did. That's what I mean. And they don't know the history of that. And it's awesome that you're kind of sharing. Those are guys that made up things that we now do on the regular basis every day. They were like, well, this is what we're going to do. And they made that shit up,
You go into a modern production office now, and there's probably 8 to 12 feet of truck space needed for all that fucking crap that's in there. Joe had a Samsonite briefcase that had a carton of cigarettes, a 5th of scotch,
and a notepad.
2 notebooks. One notebook had every phone number that meant a shit in the music business. You need a private jet in Peoria, Illinois at 3 a.m. to get somebody out of town before the feds get there. Yeah. Joe had that number.
Right.
He had every number like that. And I'd see him whip it out, put his glasses on, flip through there and make a phone call. And that problem evaporated instantly. And that bottle of scotch would evaporate over the course of the day. And, but that's inspiring beyond belief. I saw him read people's minds. You know, he knew, and keep in mind, I started being a roadie in the 70s, and roadies were basically pirates.
Sure.
For the most part. We were pirates that lived on the land.
Lost kids. Yep. Lost boys.
Well, you found yourself there. And there's like through Facebook, there's a guy in Boston named Zeus that was the ultimate backline guy to all the great bands that came out of Boston. And he's still their backline guy. He's made a career of it. They've taken care of him. He's had a great life. I actually am envious because he never had to leave his family the way we did.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's something to be said for that, having that same adventure and not sacrificing as much. I mean, as much as COVID sucks, I'm home.
Yeah.
You know? And this was probably the only way it was going to happen. I tried, you know, I've tried to stop doing this a couple times. I did movies for a while, and that's crazier than this business. It is. It's nothing makes sense there.
Yeah,
they throw money away.
Oh my God. Yeah. I did a TV show for a year, and it was just like, what is happening here?
Well, it's a different form of creativity. It's creativity through splurge, through excess. Where we we appear to be excessive, but it's very controlled. You know, and
especially now.
Especially now. And so the evolution from pirate to what we are now, I mean, the
specialized technicians now with training.
Well, the IT skills that you have to have. And I struggle with zipping my backpack so my laptop doesn't fall out. So
that's why we needed the young kids to figure it out, because we just want to be mixers. At least I do.
Well, I just wanted a job.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be part of something that meant something, you know. And the one experience from being the kid that went to the concert to the guy, you know, taking part in driving the concert is when the lights go out.
Yeah.
That energy, and I just got goosebumps talking about it. That's addictive. That to be part of that, to ride that wave for hopefully 90 minutes, because it's hard to go 90 minutes without peeing anymore. But
yeah. No, it's true. That's a bigger drug than any drug that I've ever taken.
Oh, and to be the advocate, I deliver the band's creative vision sonically to the audience.
Yeah.
And then I watch the audience now more than the people on the stage.
Yeah.
You know, I can't really see the stage anymore, but watching and that's kind of what I like about pop music too. It's more organic. It's more emotional.
Yeah.
These little girls that love Ari and Katy and
totally.
They're in another place. I started doing pop because my daughter was struggling with me being gone. You know, so she just asked me one day, why don't you work for somebody I like Katy Perry? Well, literally 2 days later, Katy's monitor engineer, Manny, called me. They needed somebody to fill in for Pete Kepler. And I said, yes, I would have done it for nothing to make my daughter happy.
Yeah.
And it did. It went from her crying when I'd leave to, you tell Katy that I really like when she said this the other day. And she would be all excited, and she would call, and then she got to know, you know, Katy a little bit and Ari pretty well. And Ari went out of her way to I told Ari one night we were at Warner Brothers shooting some TV show and waiting for the hours that you wait to do your 3-minute thing. And she asked me what Emmy was doing. And I told her she having a sleepover with a bunch of her friends. And she goes, wow, let's freak them out. And she jumped in my lap and took a picture, put it on Instagram. And she goes, okay, countdown from 30. It was like 22 seconds. My phone blew up and my daughter's going, oh my God.
That's amazing. Those are great moments.
And those artists, those pop artists try so hard.
Yeah.
But
I also remember a conversation. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was you called me up and you were on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins, and it was Billy's guitar rig in a theater on like a 2 412s on beyond 12, every knob on the fucking amp turned all the way up. And but before you told me that, you went, hey man, why don't you come out and do this he said, why don't you come out and do the Smashing Pumpkins thing? And I was like, yeah, dude, cool, thank you. And then I got out there and you were like, this is why I'm leaving.
I think I remember seeing you doing that. Didn't we do a Sunset Strip show?
Yes. Yeah.
Or something.
That was my last show.
Yeah.
Oh wait, was that the transition from Smash?
I think it was. Yeah. I think it was.
Oh,
right. I got off one bus and got on the other bus. I've done that.
And I stayed with the hard thing. Oh man, that was horrible. That was like that's 8 months of my life I'll never get back. But anyway,
the whole fallacy that you can't quit bands or quit tours.
Yeah,
I'm living proof that you most certainly fucking can. And have a good reason and a lot of options.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about that for a bit, because in our more experienced brains, that was always such taboo, wasn't it? At some point, it really kind of was, and stuff like that. And nowadays, you're right. It doesn't seem that, like it's that these guys just, I'm going to do this, and that doesn't seem like that big a deal anymore.
There's a lot of good sound engineers. There's not a lot of great sound engineers. And if you're on that shorter list, it's surprising what they'll put up with. If you just are a gentleman about it, negotiate the right deal, and at this point, I mostly work with people I already know for the most part, and it's often them seeking me out or, and often the artist. Travis Scott hired me because he liked my shoes. I swear to God, I had a pair of shoes.
Well, the fact that you worked for Kanye didn't.
Those would be that Toby had that Travis Scott liked.
No, I tell you what, he knew I worked
Here's
for
the great
Kanye,
story. Tell him, Toby.
He wasn't giving me the time of day until he looked down and saw my shoes and went, holy shit, where did you get those shoes? And I said, Michael Jordan gave them to me. Because he did. We did a party, his birthday party for Michael Jordan. He gave us all his new shoes to wear. He wanted everybody to have them on. They didn't come out for several months after that. I don't know shoes. I buy shoes used to buy shoes when my shoes wore out. Now I buy them when people give them to me. Or wear them when people give them to me.
Yeah.
But I guess those shoes were a big deal. And that started us talking. Well, he took me seriously from that point on.
Yeah.
And he would always check out my shoe like when I first walk in and shake his head. Well, he's a major shoe collector. Yeah. This guy lives for that stuff. Well, I impressed him without meaning to, but it got a dialogue going that got me asked to come down, and they have a way they're doing auto-tune that I probably shouldn't talk about, but they were overdriving the input of it. All I did was push the fucking pad switch in and turn the gain in the console up. And it had been that way for a year.
Yeah.
you know. Well, between the shoes and now fix the auto tune, he calls me for whatever.
Off to the races.
Whatever they
Shoot
do. Well,
that button. Wow.
well, whatever gets a level of trust there.
Yep.
Like with Ariana, I've been there since she became professional and have helped her. I mean, if you look at her new record, she's credited as an engineer. She's credited as a producer. She does all of her own, she records her vocals now. I mean, and if listen to the record, the vocals sound phenomenal.
Yeah, they sound good.
You know, I just made sure she had the right microphone, you know, and they sent me a picture of a box of microphones they had bought, and we just called Max Martin's team, the guy that she's had the greatest success with, and said, what mic did she like the best? And it was a Telefunken, the 251.
251.
And one of the new ones, not even an old one. It's one
wow.
of the new ones, but you could give her a 58. Her voice is going to sound
well, yeah.
killer anyway. But that
I
was
always
what
tell people that it's like, you know, it's the source, right? It's just like any amazing guitar player. I could pick up their guitar and play, and it wouldn't sound anywhere close to what that guitar player sounds like because it's all in their fingers, you know.
Well, with Ari, there's a couple of us that have been there since the beginning that helped her in a lot of the decisions she made, just by always telling her the truth and always having her best interest involved. I mean, at TV shows, we've almost had, I wouldn't call them fist fights, but physical altercations to make the right thing happen. You know, I think once she realized the depths of
how far you go for her, right?
Well, I'm not going to let some dumbass with a clipboard do something that she doesn't want to
that's
happen.
right.
And she knows that, and she's rewarded me by involving me in most of everything she's done lately. And we did a live record on the last tour that was me, the music director, and Ari. We pulled all the tracks. There was nobody else involved. She excluded everybody else, and it was an awesome experience, even though we were on the road and doing it on days off. And that was fatiguing to listen to music for,
yes, it is,
you know, really loud one night, and then the next day we're on NS10s for 14 hours straight. And where it's a live record, it's just dealing with the ambience, trying to minimize the negative effect of the ambience as much as possible. And we left, there was a couple feedback, little squeals here. She wouldn't let us, she wouldn't overdub anything. She wouldn't.
Wow.
Oh, it killed me because it's like me documenting my.
You're like, that was me. Yeah. But you know what? I think the fans appreciate that. It's funny. I did that Linkin Park thing for so long where I was mixing all kinds of live release things. And so I was doing the same thing, mixing during the day and then mixing the show. And we really tried to keep it totally live and not fix anything. And the one time that we fixed something, the fans went up in an uproar and basically showed A and B, like, here's my cell phone from the show, and here's the release that they just did. See, it's not, you know, and that's what the fans want, man. They want it to be live. They want it to be like the show they
want it to be a unique experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And every show is a unique experience, and was also part of the draw here. I mean, for me, doing records is a different creative experience at a different pace. And quite frankly, by the time the record comes out and you hear what the response is, you're doing something else.
For sure. And months later, you're doing something else.
And my wife works in the movie business, and we've had movies come on and her go, oh, wait a minute. I worked on this, you know, and or I listened to the Permanent Vacation record the other day, and there's songs in there I don't remember.
Wow.
And I guarantee you, I've heard every song on that record at least 500 times.
Yeah, of course.
So how do I not? But I think I'm forgetting more than I realize. And I have to memorize. I don't use notes when I do tours like most people. I write something down if I made the mistake more than once. But the minute I write it on a piece of paper, I never have to look at it again. I won't make the mistake again. But I like to memorize everything. I don't memorize the names of the songs because it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I only have so much RAM.
Yeah.
Being a vintage analog model.
Yeah.
I'm tape drive and the tape's full.
Yeah, it's hard to upgrade that. Yep.
Yeah.
But just by doing that, like with Prince, there was 50 some songs.
Yeah, right.
There was no set list. You had to know, and I had to tap out the first delay time had to be right, or it was $50 out of your pocket. But that makes it so you can do that.
Yeah, right.
When you've got, as much as I did not like that man at times when I was there, you know, I was stunned when he died.
Yeah.
You know, he taught me how to make my hi-hat sound right.
Yeah.
I think of him every time I touch the hi-hat.
That's amazing.
And the same with Steven Tyler made me not afraid to try anything in the studio, you know, because he wasn't.
Right.
He would literally try anything, and a lot of the cool stuff he came up with came out of that. Actually, most of it, really. The playfulness of him is in the lyrics. If he's not being playful, you can't really create that. I've learned something from all of them. And the main thing is the work ethic. They all have come up with a way to perfect whatever it is they do to the point they can draw a big crowd.
Yeah.
The younger artists, I get more out of personally, I think. The older artists, it's a different experience. It's kind of like you're just trying to get through the day.
Yep.
As older people are, and the younger artists, they're looking to 20 years ahead. You know, like Katy Perry 20 years from now will be a force to be reckoned with. You know, no matter what she's doing, she might be head of the UN, or you know, or she might have a chain of department stores, or who knows. But whatever it is, she'll be enormously
She'll be good at
successful
it.
at it.
Yeah.
It's just it's in her.
Yeah.
You know, and that being around that drives you, especially when you're old.
Yeah.
And well, and it's I'm getting to the point where it's physically, I've got a bad back that's caused me some issues here lately, and
it's hard living, man. You did 40 years of being on the road. It's hard living.
Well, I've had surgery one day and did the show that night.
Yeah, right.
Even though I promised the doctor I wouldn't, to get him to let me out of the fucking hospital, and then went straight to the gig.
Yeah.
I didn't know they gave him tickets though. And he came down in bus. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing?
What the fuck? What are you doing here?"
I took all those pills you gave me, and I could work.
So what is the, you know, earlier you were talking about there's lots of good engineers out there, but there's very few champion engineers. There's like, you know, a small group of those guys. So the people that are watching this, what is it? What makes a champion engineer? Like, what is it that makes someone that?
85% of what all engineers do is almost virtually identical. You know, the last 15% is where the magic happens. All those little subtleties add up to a great difference, you know, and if you can, a great engineer not only makes it sound great, he makes all the performers on stage, hit the deck knowing it's going to. It helps what they do. They take it to a higher level. It's a team sport. And the engineer is a very intricate part of that team. If everybody,
especially now with social media, right? Like every artist we work for checks their show from the night before. And if you're not, sounding good through a phone, they're not going to want to play with you,
Well, Katy Perry told me a few years back that she held her phone up when I first started working for her and said, just so you know, just so we're on the same page, she goes, 20,000 people will see the show tonight. And within 24 hours, 5 million people will see bits and pieces of it shot on their cell phone. Put just as much effort into making it sound good on the phone for those 5 million
as opposed
as the 20,000.
20,000,
and I put just as much effort, and I'd already discovered that with the Mars Volta. That was the first time where the social media interaction became a reality for me. Their fans were very, are all audiophiles or consider themselves that. But it's mostly a smart audience. Yeah. It's a more intelligent audience. And I started hearing we did a few shows around the LA area or the West Coast area, and they were so loud on stage, nobody up front was hearing shit except Omar's guitar rig and the bass rig. So I brought in some arcs, the little trapezoidal, which is one of my favorite PA boxes. I put 3 of those on the side and made it loud as fuck. So if you were up front, you heard the same thing you heard everywhere else in the room, and instantly heard, because fans were going to multiple shows too. So the fans actually helped correct that problem that I probably wouldn't have caught on to if they hadn't done that. And I've always listened to the fans with constructive. I mean, I had a guy once come down and go, "Hey, I'm sitting over here on the side here, and there's something crackling like crazy." And sure enough, there's a fucking amp on fire. But now, the thing now where everything's networked together, there's a higher level of knowing. Well, towards the end of Ari's last tour, I had to miss some shows. And Dean Mizzy, my SE, and Dean had been doing the sound checks for most of the tour, because with my job at Clair, I'm often on the phone and sound check. Every time we started sound check, my phone would ring, and it'd be somebody I had to
talk to.
Well, and then Dean picked up on the fact that the days I wasn't at sound check, the show actually sounded better because I wouldn't nervously fuck with shit.
Awesome.
So we went with that plan. So we had a show coming up where I was going to miss, and I kept saying, you're ready. And then right before the show went, you know what, you do it. And I kind of did it on purpose to see what he'd do. And what he did was mix an absolutely perfect show. But I walked around the whole show. I went up front. I went places I had to argue with people to get there. Yeah. Well, because I don't look like the other guys on the crew now. Well, they think I'm somebody's dad that they gave a pass to. I swear to God, at the end of the show, I can't say how many times I have to go out the side door and walk around to get to the bus, because it's easier than arguing with everybody there that they're trying to work here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man.
But it's changing now. Dean,
so what it is changing, and it's the technology has obviously gotten amazing. You and I kind of came up, and you certainly, but I started in a time period where speaker technology sucked, and we took whatever we had and did the best we could with it. And for whatever reason, we kind of figured out how to make it sound good in that situation. Whereas a new, younger engineer that's coming into this now is handed the keys to a Ferrari, right? Like, hey, get on in, kid, don't screw up the shift between 1 and 2. And so how is that different, do you think, from what we came up in? How are these new kids where speaker technology is so amazing? It's almost like counterintuitive, I think. Whereas you better have your mix slamming, dude, because of the nuances of speaker technology. What's your opinions about all that?
The challenge that we had was overcoming the limitations the hardware presented. The challenge the new kids have is to live up to the standard. There aren't excuses now. And like I was saying, where 85% is the same, concentrate on those 15%.
Every little detail matters. Yeah.
Well, and now you offer all of your knowledge to whoever wants it.
Yeah.
I've done that for years, but in a less, you got to find me.
In a less social media kind of a way. Yeah.
Well, if you show up behind the right dumpster after the show, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Yes.
But things like a funny behind the dumpster story, enjoying the after show relaxation period.
Yes.
That one does after the show. The caterer on Katy Perry's tour, we're sitting there shooting the shit, and he goes, "What do you do on the tour?" And I go, I'm the front of house sound guy. And he goes, "Wow, my dad did that. He's retired now, but," I go, "Really? Who's your dad? I might know him." Well, Benji Lefevre was his dad. And I went, wow. Fuck, no wonder you're a good chef.
Yeah, no kidding. Guys,
if
you don't know who Benji is, he's amazing. I mean, he's retired now, but man, I heard like 3 or 4 shows in my life that were his shows. Like, there's been 5 shows that have been like super impactful in my life, and 3 of them were his mixes.
I was lucky enough to do probably 4 or 5 tours with Benji, and I don't know if he was. He would go from pulling the chains in the morning up there in the rigging and come down. If your hands weren't as greasy as his, there was an issue, so.
Plus he'd probably been up all night too.
Oh yeah, for sure. How many, that night or how many nights?
At least that night.
At least that night. Yeah.
That was, I tell you what, for being on one of his crews, that was probably one of the hardest things was, trying to keep up with and Benji's got to be 20 years older than me at least. So, no, maybe not 20, maybe 15, keeping up with those guys. Cause man, they could just go all night and day and day and day. So,
well, Benji mixed Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Rolling Stones.
Him and Rusty mixed
Rolling Stones for a long time. George Michael, which those shows were
sounded
probably
unbelievable. That's one of my 3, by the way, is a George Michael.
I saw him do Peter Gabriel on the So Tour.
Wow. I thought that was amazing.
I followed him into Jane's Addiction.
Right.
And they gave me his rehearsal mixes. And I listened to one song in headphones and took it off and told, God, who was managing them now? I can't remember. But I looked at the dude and I go, "I hope you don't expect me to make it sound like this." There's no fucking way. Yeah. I go, "My God, and they had fired him."
Oh.
Wow.
Perry fired him.
Wow.
He tried to make Perry change how he does things.
He did his delay thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there was an era where there were true artist engineers, and I think that younger guys can learn from that there is, just like what you said, 85% of it is all of us. Like, we're all like, okay, cool. But it's that extra 15% that those guys, Trip Caliph, Benji, fuck, you go and see that. And I mean, I went, not to tell everyone how amazing you are, but one of those 5 shows is actually a show that you mixed, believe it or not. Wow. And I just remember like sitting there. It was actually a Limp Bizkit show during their heyday. And I just remember like sitting there watching it going, what is happening? I can't make a band sound like this.
Limp Bizkit did more for my career than anybody.
Yeah.
Actually, Limp Bizkit and Kanye.
Yeah.
Kanye made me the flavor of the month. And I mean, I think we had 7 inputs, but it was extreme. Everyone was in front of the PA. And
yeah,
I mean, it was everything weird you'd ever have to do, but it was the thing everyone had to see. And I had a role in it.
A part in it. Yeah.
I guess I became a meme at one point.
And
I didn't know till my son and some of his friends came to one of the Kanye shows, and 2 of his friends lost their shit. And they go, "Dad, your dad's the Gray Ghost," which is the nickname they had given me because I'd been photographed with, it was like 40 of the biggest rappers in the world, and me standing right in the middle of them.
That was at Madison Square Garden, right? Like,
well, it was originally a Rolling Stone picture, and they, thank God, cropped me out because it was. I think I could just see them at Rolling Stone going, "Wow, look at." Hey, can we take this guy?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But that helped more than, and Biscuit having Fred Durst not giving a shit about budget. I took, I think it was like 8,000 pounds of audio gear everywhere we did a show.
Yeah.
He didn't care what the fuck it cost.
Sure.
He does now.
He does now.
Well, I tell you what, that period I was there, they benefited too, because everybody was talking about the end result.
Yeah.
Break Stuff. The beginning of that song was probably one of the best guitar moments of that time period.
Oh yeah.
That was an odd time for guitar.
It was. But it was, I remember, I got the trickle down from that as well and ended up with Limp Bizkit. And I ended up with the non-Wes version of Limp Bizkit. And the new guy had a pretty good guitar tone, but I took it and made it this huge, like, in your face thing. And people still come after me and talk to me about how amazing that Limp Bizkit guitar tone was. And for me, it was like literally just making a fake stereo image, of this huge guitar and then pushing it way forward. But it's those songs that start of Break Stuff, everyone just goes, whoa. If you push that to 10 and watch all your meters go,
well, plus those guitar moments back on the front loaded PAs.
Yeah.
That was a different sound.
It was a thing, man.
Bass guitar, snare drum, and guitar in S4s. Oh, that was the best those instruments ever sounded.
Yes.
And
especially if you had a shitload of them.
Well, didn't you always?
Didn't you always?
Well, I'll tell you what, back then, like I did one tour, we had 72 S4s, and it was me and the monitor guy. And that tour, we actually had 2 techs. Usually it was a 3-man crew. Yeah. Usually had one guy there. Yeah. So I would build front of house and put at least one side of the PA up. And I did S4s differently than everyone else. I only used the 2 wide bumpers.
Yeah.
Bumpers. And then I spaced the bumpers out. But it added so much work, no one would help me. So I had to put the whole fucking PA up every day.
You know what? Speaking about that crew thing, the first time I worked with you was Giant Stadium, Aerosmith, and I can't remember. 80. Late 80s, right?
Yeah, 88.
And Craig Schertz, myself, and Tyler came out as the Stadium crew, right? So 3 of us on the Stadium crew. And then I can't remember who was on the regular crew. You, JW, Sonny. Chicken ear.
Chicken ear.
Um,
Then
maybe Machado, right?
yeah, then Danny became a rigger shortly after that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking back. I see these crews nowadays, and there's all these people. I'm thinking, man, we came out with an extra 160 boxes for 3 of us here.
Yeah.
But
And now you have to have 6 people when you.
yeah, now you'd have like 6 people on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, but back then cocaine was not frowned upon. When they changed that rule, you suddenly needed a lot more people.
You suddenly needed more people.
Talk about working, Oof. I mean, Craig shirts,
man.
God rest his soul, but man, that was working,
Well, I'll tell you what, Craig pissed the Aerosmith camp off pretty severely that day. I had to go pull him aside and talk to him, which I had never done anything like that before. And he was one of my idols because Craig was one of the superstar.
Yes. You've mixed Genesis for years and
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, but Craig bitched himself out of a great mixing career. You not only have to be good, you have to be likable.
Yes.
Too.
This is like the key to what I tell people all the time. You cannot be a dick and expect to work in this industry, period. You have to get along with people first and then be good as an engineer.
And that's another thing is as you I don't know, I'm not gonna say you do the hiring at Clair. I mean, you're on the sales team, but still you've got to work with a lot of new younger guys working there and older guys and stuff. And I hear this a lot in my career, and it's not just from audio people, it's from lighting, all this. I've been doing this for 12 years. I don't got to load the truck anymore. I don't got to do that. I don't got to do that.
12 years.
And I always revert back. What if I would have said that to Benji back then while his hands were full of grease? Not only would he have punched me, which you can't do now, I would have never worked in the business again yet. Well, I hear that all the time now.
And Pooch and I would be talking to somebody else.
That's right.
His name would be Tater too, though.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? You can't have that attitude even these days, and I hear it and see it a lot. I don't know really where it comes from.
Well, I don't do the load ins and load outs anymore because apparently they like to do them really fast now. And
well, it's different when they don't want you to do it anymore. It's not that you're not willing.
Well, Alan Doyle on Katy Perry, the first loadout we did, I turned out, he runs over, he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" I go, "I'm going as fast as I can." He goes, "Look, the whole idea of this is to do it really fast. So if you could just gather your things and get out of here before you get hurt. Because the minute we run over you, we've got to stop." And
God knows, okay, Alan, he goes 1,000,000 miles a minute. Holy shit.
Yeah. But I got those wheel cups put in all of the Cadillacs at Clair for Alan. Others had asked for it, but Alan, and we rehearsed up there with Katy Perry. And when I do tours and we're anywhere near Clair, they try to use me. And Alan was
You're the tester.
Well, he wanted to be able to stack Cadillacs. He's always wanted to be able to stack them. Hell, they're usually so heavy, even when they're half empty. It never occurred to me that you'd ever want to stack that.
Why would you want to stack that?
Yeah. Well, he did. And now we all can stack them because we pushed it through the bureaucracy and finally, I remember Sean Clair going, "I can't believe we're actually even talking about this." It was like everybody in a big meeting. But Alan got his way, and it made things better.
I can only imagine the bill for like 4 million stacking cups for all those Cadillacs around the world. Holy Jesus!
Well, you know what?
A small project when it's a Clair thing.
Yeah.
With Clair, the big downside there is the sheer numbers. Like when we changed the amps, the Lab Grubens to the new ones, it was like 4,000 amplifiers that had to be changed.
Over. Yeah.
Well, and it's not just big for us, it's big for Lab Gruben because now there's 4,000 of those used Lab Gruben amps are about to hit
the market.
Well, all that has to be coordinated now. Yeah. And I don't, honestly, a lot of that stuff scares me.
Yeah.
Clair is still a family-owned business. That's the beauty of it. It's still run that way. It's not it is a big corporation, but they care as much now as Roy and Jean Clair cared when they started. And actually, they might even care more because there's more to care about. And the community, it's become such a big part of that community up there that's still growing. And I didn't think it would work when I first heard what they wanted to do because of how remote it was. Plus, the first time I was there was a bad cow pasture day. And I was like, man, I don't know if anybody will ever get used to this. But
funny.
That's not so much an issue anymore. And it's so convenient and so useful, especially with Tate.
Yeah.
And some of the people that have settled into the community there. And it's still growing and will continue to grow.
Yes, it will. We've kind of run out of time, but I just want to ask you one little question here before we go. I know it feels like it's been 2 minutes, but we've been over our hour here. But one last question here, and then we're going to go to the question and answer period and ask you some other ones. But what is it that you look for in someone? Either as an engineer or just anybody on the crew, what is the thing that you're looking for someone that you grab and you say, hey man, I like this person. I want to help them. I want them to succeed. What is it, the thing that you're looking for in that person?
I've helped people because of how I heard them mix. Like Simon Thomas, I heard him mix Sam Smith and had another gig for him within a week.
Nice.
Just because the gig was perfect for him. And from what I had just heard, I knew that. And it helped Simon, and Simon has been a strong, ally of Claire's. He's moved forward. And
so the real deal is to convince you to come to one of our shows.
Well, you know what? There's a guy named Ron Lark. Here's another example. One of the other sales guys at Clair, Paul Newman, asked me to talk to him. I cold called the guy. We had a great conversation. He's about 25 years old. I could tell by talking to him, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I invited him to a dinner and didn't tell him that Jim Straw and Sean Clair were going to be there because I was afraid he wouldn't come.
Yeah, right.
And then after Sean met him, he goes, wow, I really like this guy. He's a super nice guy. Well, and through no effort on my part, he ended up mixing one of the support acts in Europe for Ariana.
Right.
He does his first show, and guess what? He's a really good fucking mixer. After his show, he said, what? He goes, be honest with me. What would you do to make it better? And I said, I would do this, this, and this, and come back when we start our show, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And I did. And the next night, it sounded just like that. The third night, I told him that he could back off a little bit.
He's a fighter.
I go, you're exactly where you need to be here in every way. So, but he's that good, and I've helped him get other stuff. So I don't have to come to hear the show. I
understand.
Because often it's the personality. The personality has just as much to do with it. The fact that he navigated himself so well with Jim and Sean and the others I had invited. But it helped everybody. And I like doing that. I like manipulating the right people together.
Yeah.
So that nature takes its course. It's not so much, nobody helped me.
Yeah.
I've helped others because nobody helped me. It was so fucking hard. It was ridiculous. I didn't have books. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have shit. I had people, like I said, Rick Submergent was one of the first people that showed me stuff. Rick Watts, 100 Watts, showed me stuff. The rest I had to come up with on my own, you know, until I got lucky enough to have opportunities to show what I had learned, and it impressed people enough that I got other opportunities with virtual sound check and as many plugins as you want, and the on, you know, and everybody thinks I'm against plugins. I'm against the overuse of any audio tool the wrong way.
Exactly.
Plugins is the easiest one to misuse that way. But the last project I did in Pro Tools, I did it totally in the box with all Waves plugins, which, and it came out sounding great, which.
Well, that's a testament. I mean, you know, it's not the tools, it's the full, you know what I mean? It's like,
Exactly. I change consoles all the time. Most guys don't.
Yeah, you don't like to do that, by the way. You have no problem.
Really? Well, I'll tell you what, let it break on me. I'll change to something else until it breaks. Because I can't. That's the one part. And even after, I shouldn't even go there. And the bottom line, they all sound good.
Yeah, they do.
Every console that's out there, and some of the stuff that's those little Wave LV1 sound amazing,
dude.
And
I just did a project on one and was just like, what is happening? The summing that's happening in that console is pretty amazing.
Yeah, they've made it work. You know, there's a tool for every situation. The goal is to pick the right tool for that situation.
No, that's right. Well, listen, Toby, thank you so much for coming. I knew this was going to just fly by. You have so many great stories. Maybe, you know, after the first of the year, we have you back because, I mean, we haven't even scraped the surface on all your great stories.
Well, we could do genre by genre.
But I think that, you know, truthfully, you above other people in regards to sound have a lot to offer in what you know, your history and and what you've been through and how you get there. And also, you know, some advice about how to be the guy that you are, you know? So thanks for showing
or not.
up. How not to do things. That's that's one of mine. But thank you very much for coming.
You got it. You're welcome.
Hey, guys, we're dark next week. No Wrong End of the Snake next Tuesday. 2 weeks from today, December 22nd, on Wrong End of the Snake, it's Derek Sherinian. Did I say that right, Tater? Is it Sherinian?
Derek Sherinian.
Yeah. Derek is a keyboardist who has played with some of the best in the world. He was the keyboard player for Dream Theater from 1994 through 1999. Went on to work with artists like Alice Cooper, Yngwie Malmsteen, Alan Holdsworth, Steve Lukather, Joe Bonamassa, Billy Sheehan, Zach Wilde, Al Di Meola, many, many more. He's also the founding member of two supergroups, Black Country Communion and Sons of Apollo. So amazing musician, keyboard player. 2 weeks from now, December 22nd. Check that out. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our videos. We just passed 1,000 subscribers to our channel. We are very grateful. Thank you. Subscribe and smash like on all of our videos, please. Also, we are still trying to get our elected officials to listen to us. Right now, we are collateral damage. In other words, our pleas for help are being unheard. We need funding to keep the people in the live event industry afloat. Many of us are independent contractors or we own small businesses that have not had income since March. Please go to extendpua.org, wemakeevents.org, namm.org, and for help with mental health and well-being, theroadieclinic.com. Keep the pressure on. Contact your representatives in the House and Senate and remind them about our forgotten industry and ask them to include Restart Act in the stimulus package. Thank you again. Thanks for showing up. Thank you, Toby. We're going to go to a question and answer period, and that will post in the next couple of days. Appreciate you guys. Take care. Be safe out there.